So here's something I find quite interesting. It's called Tertill, and described here on the Franklin Robotics website as a robot that weeds your garden. And you can see here that we have a pre-order option for those who are interested. I find this kind of interesting. I've thought about, sort of theorized that something like this, indeed things like this have been talked about in the past. Different people have proposed different things like this, and I find it quite interesting. Obviously, in the context of agriculture and horticulture, mechanization is a thing that is growing, generally speaking. There are many companies who are trying to optimize, modernize, both with automation technology and just basic software and statistics and machine learning. It's a really interesting time to be a farmer, honestly, or to be somebody who works in the agricultural horticultural industry. There's just so much interesting technology. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a robot that gardens. It essentially is just a weeding Roomba. In fact, the individual who developed this, or who is heading this as CEO, worked on the Roomba, and essentially that's what this is. It's a Roomba for your garden, particularly for weeds. Now, it doesn't discriminate between weeds and desirable plants. It just moves over about anything that's lower than an inch in height. It'll just cut down, and when it cuts them down, if they grow back, it'll just continue to cut them down until eventually it can't photosynthesize. The weed can, or the plant, and it dies. Moving down the page, we have 3 bullet points, essentially. It's solar powered, it's chemical free, and it's waterproof, which would mean that the controls that it has are mechanical. And I'll link the description, or in the description, I'll link the YouTube channel where I saw some of the other information that they have out on this device. It didn't always look like this, but it essentially operated in the same way. It's basically like a small weed whacker. There's a small nylon strip, a rigid sort of thread or line, and it rotates at high speeds, essentially like a weed whacker would, and that's how it cuts down plants that it rolls on over. It does not do anything to plants that are bigger than an inch. It will avoid those. So this device is probably best used after somebody has already weeded their garden, or has in some way made it so that they're starting fresh. It will not control weeds that are already growing quite high. You know, your horseweed, your dandelions, anything that's bigger than an inch, and a lot of weeds grow quite quickly and rapidly, and that's how they compete with other plants, by shooting up really quickly. So it's imperative to, I would imagine, use this device like that. But it is a nice alternative for people who don't want to use, like a Roundup, or who don't want to use some sort of an herbicide for whatever reason. Maybe they're going to be eating some of these plants, or maybe the weeds are right next to their plant and they're not herbicide resistant, or for whatever reason. I wonder if this would do good on like pavement, actually, now that I think about it. But anyways, it is solar powered, kind of like the plants that it's controlling. And in one of their videos, they made the point that it does not control plants that are higher than 1 inch, and it will not discriminate. But for general purposes, in most cases, it can go and traverse about 100 square feet. And on days where it's more sunny and it has more light, maybe seasons that are sunnier in general, it can traverse a greater distance. But in situations where it's more cloudy, less so. So that's kind of a trade-off. But obviously the plants that it's trying to control are obviously going to have the same disadvantages. So really, this sort of mechanical control, to put it in sort of an IPM perspective, it works. I mean, presumably, theoretically, it would work pretty well. We have good examples here of it searching for weeds. It uses software, and it also communicates with an app that somebody can run on their smartphone through Bluetooth, and in that way it can be directed in some ways, and that information is also on their website. They also mentioned that the wheels here, and I'd like to kind of show you what I mean. You notice how the wheels are kind of ribbed, both on the side that connects to the robot and the side that makes contact with the soil. Supposedly that is a purposeful design feature so that it can somewhat disrupt soil seeds, or seeds that have been put on the top of the layer of the soil, and it disturbs them by having these sort of ridges go over the soil and kind of disrupt the top layer of the soil, the very top layer. I don't know how much that would help, to be honest, but I suppose every little bit does help. They describe it as something that patrols the garden. It says here, Tertill uses proprietary algorithms to ensure that it finds as many weeds as it can. Make sure there's enough room between the plants for Tertill to get all the weeds. So that right there is a sort of a limitation of this kind of a design. It's kind of the same limitation that a Roomba has, actually, is that it can't obviously go into places that are smaller than itself. It is a hard body, and it uses its sense of, I guess, touch, essentially, or whatever it uses to alert itself to its proximity to other things, kind of like a Roomba does with furniture. It will avoid areas that it thinks it will run into something, which is nice because that way it's not trampling over your own plants, but at the same time it means that you have to hand pick or use some other sort of control measure to get rid of weeds that are too close to your plants. So it's definitely not a panacea. It should be used kind of in a layered control regime, if at all. Again, I don't really know how well it works, but I'd be interested to see someone else using it, and I'm curious, almost curious enough to buy it, except I don't really have a personal garden at the moment, so kind of moot there. There's the ability to sign up and learn more, and I think I'm actually going to do that myself. I'm not being paid to make this video or anything like that. I just find it a cool technology, and it sort of resonates with some of the ideas and sentiments that I have, sort of an automated robotic system that can take care of certain agricultural or horticultural tasks that humans usually have to do, especially those that are kind of dangerous, hazardous, those that are kind of stressful and laborious and really wreak havoc with your body. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary that somebody destroys their body in the process of work. So that's kind of my outlook on it. We have here the CEO, Rory McKean, Joe Jones, who is the CDO, and John Chase, who is, I guess, their engineer. I don't know if that's a title or not, but it's kind of cool, and I really look forward to seeing how this pans out for them. You have my support, guys, so yeah. There will be other videos on this video that you can click if you're interested in some other videos that have to do with agriculture and horticulture and the news regarding that I find interesting and that I want to comment on. I did a video on dicamba. I also do videos regarding phytopathology and different aspects of it, like biocontrol or pest identification or the lifestyles of certain pests so you can know how to defeat those pests. These are pest plants in this case, but I'm mostly concerned with pest organisms that are animals, essentially, and usually arthropods and fungi too. But yeah, so if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe. If you have an opinion on this or any other subject matter, give me a message, comment in the video below. Whatever you would like to do to get into contact with me if you have any questions or you'd like me to help you out with something. It is my profession. It is what I like to do. I have a great passion for helping people out who have issues with any kind of agricultural or horticultural problem regarding crop production. So check out the videos, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.